Back with our panelists. Let's get to it. Should the flag march have taken place to begin with? As always, we begin with our quick fire round, 30 seconds each to let out your initial stance, and we pick up the conversation from there. So, Dr. Morton Sherman, please take the lead. Your 30 seconds are on.
Well, let me say in 30 seconds, of course it should have taken place. Just imagine if it hadn't, it would have set off a slippery slope of continual concessions. Once you make one concession, there's no reason to expect that you won't be faced with further and further demands. So not to have the parade would have ignited or pushed Israel down a slippery slope of continuing concessions, each one more far-reaching than the next. So I find the question extremely strange and really should not be asked at all.
Yeah, well, we attempt to provoke a discussion here, of course, not taking a stand here. Samar Sinjalawi, your thoughts?
Which flag? 40% of the inhabitants of the city see this flag as the symbol of their oppression. This state did not give me rights, did not give me citizenship, denied me from basic rights of living, of expanding my neighborhoods, of flourishing, of participating in the political system that decides all the details of my life. Your correspondent said that they harassed him. They have been harassing us the whole day. They have been harassing us for 56 years, and they are expecting us to welcome a flag that is signed for hostility towards us.
Okay.
Just imagine the outcome had been different.
Dr. Sherman, we're just wrapping up the first round, and then we engage in the conversation, and everyone will have time. Last but not least, Mark Regev, please.
Well, obviously, since Israel reunited the city in 1967, all the different faiths, their holy sites are protected. All the different faiths autonomously administer their holy sites. There's freedom of expression. And, of course, the people demonstrating or marching today have the right to expression. But I would take issue with something that Summer said. If one looks at the statistics and the polling, most Palestinians do not support what he just said.
Okay, and on that note, gentlemen, let's please feel free to interact. Dr. Sherman, you wanted to comment.
You know, I'm just wondering at what stage the whole of the Israeli population won't understand that basically they want to kill us. As I said, just imagine what would happen in '67 if the results of the war had been reversed. I think that it would just be too horrible to imagine. And basically the interlocutor, I forget his name, the one who lives in East Jerusalem is complaining that he's been oppressed. Just imagine if tables had been turned, what would have happened to the Jews? So I think he should actually be very grateful that the Jews have been such a benign oppressor, and thank his lucky stars.
Mr. Samar Sinjalawi.
Well, I've never seen a people that is proud that he is controlling millions of other nation under a military regime. Since you are proud. You are proud. You say that we need to thank you that you are oppressing us. You are denying right. You have left my land. You have left my city. You should recognize. My friend, tell me. Give me the chance to speak. I did not interrupt you. You say that Jerusalem is united. I am telling you, I am part of Jerusalem. I was born here, my grandfather, my grand-grandfather, and it is not united. 40% of the people deny your regime. You are occupiers in East Jerusalem. Nobody is recognizing your sovereignty in East Jerusalem. We are Palestinians. We have our own identity. At least try to understand that we have a different narrative, that we have a different story, that we have a different identity.
Germans in Sudetenland were in Czechoslovakia for longer than the Palestinians have been in Palestine, and they lost the war. Losing a war of destruction carries a price tag. You lost. The Israelis have been far more benign. And
so we lost. We shouldn't live. If we lose, first of all, my friend,
gentlemen, we want to hear both of you. Please.
Don't please false history. We did not fight you. The Arab regimes fought you. The Palestinians never fought Israel.
Okay, Samar Sinjalawi, let's try to progress the conversation.
And you have lost the war in '73. Did Egypt erase you from the map? No, you lost the war, and now you have peace. Even if you lose a war, there is millions of Palestinians living inside Israel.
Okay.
My friend,
The Egyptian army was completely
50%.
surrounded. We didn't lose the war. We didn't win it the same way we won in 67. But the Egyptian army was completely surrounded. I suggest that you
forget-
look at
Forget about the war. I was born in 72. I have nothing to do with all the
Gentlemen,
wars you have fought with the Arabs.
Gentlemen,
I
it's
am a
2023.
living person, a human being here, and I request rights. I need equality. Why can't I be part of the privilege that you have? Are you a better human being than me? Are you a better human than me? Do you think you love?
Gentlemen.
Do you think you love Jerusalem more than me?
Gentlemen,
Which
please.
part of enemy you're having difficulty understanding?
Okay, gentlemen, it's
I just need
2023,
rights. I am a
and we
human
want to
being. I need
understand
rights.
what should or what is happening from this point onwards. Ambassador Mark Regev, one of my questions were, is Jerusalem the trigger or the core of the problem? I think that this encounter we've just witnessed perhaps answers that.
Well, I think if you'll allow me to say, the reality is actually much more complex than both guests have said. If you actually look at the polling of Palestinian East Jerusalemites, yes, and when they're asked consistently over the last few years, do they prefer to be under Israeli control or under the control of a future Palestinian state or the Palestinian Authority, they say they prefer Israel. And this is in poll after poll, polling done by Palestinians. I have a poll in front of me by the Palestine News Network, Shifa. If I say that wrong, Samar will correct me, of course. But it says 93%. 93% of Jerusalem Palestinians prefer to live under Israeli than Palestinian rule. And it's not because they're Zionists. It's not because they sing Hatikvah. It's because they understand that living in a first world democracy is better than living in the sort of society that our Arab neighbors live in, not just Palestinians under the Palestinian Authority, but across the Middle East.
Okay, I want to ask you a question, Mr. Ambassador.
I didn't interrupt you. I was very careful not to interrupt you. I ask you, please, the same respect.
Fine.
I think
Go ahead.
the reality is much, much more complex than people say. When you ask East Jerusalem Palestinians, do they prefer Israel or Palestinian sovereignty? They vote for Israel. There was even a poll which said that if Jerusalem was divided between Israel and a Palestinian state, this was done in 2000, a few years ago. 42% of East Jerusalem Palestinians said that if the city was divided, they would move to the Israeli side. Now, this is Palestinians talking, so I would ask Samer, to what extent is he representing Palestinian opinion in East Jerusalem? Because the statistics tell a different story.
I am exactly working in the same direction. Why doesn't Israel grant the 400,000 Jerusalemites in East Jerusalem equal rights? Why they are not citizens? Why do you keep 40% of the population in the title of resident under continuous threat that they can be revoked? You can revoke their residency right. You can kick them out of the borders of the city. You can deny them rights. If this is your united capital, why don't you give every single inhabitant of the capital citizenship, equal rights?
I will answer you. I will answer you.
Why do you keep us?
In the current situation, yes, I understand your question, but I would answer the following way. Please tell me, why is it in the current situation where you say Palestinians are second-class residents of Jerusalem, why do they still nevertheless want to stay under Israeli control and reject Palestinian control? What's the reason?
Well, because they want to stay in their city, because
no, but they say that's not correct. That's not the question, Samar. They say, if the city is divided, which side do you want to be on? According to Palestinian polls, 42% would move to the Israeli side.
Dr. Martin Sherman.
Well, let me tell you something. For me also, Jerusalem is not divided, because my family has properties in West Jerusalem, in Katamon, where your discriminative law allows Jews to reclaim properties they have lost before 48 in East Jerusalem, and does not allow Palestinians to reclaim property
But
that
so
they
why
have
do they
lost
want to stay
before
under Israeli
48.
control, Samir? Why do they want to stay under Israeli control?
The law is discriminative, my friend.
But why,
Everything
if that is true, why do they want to stay under
Dr.
Israeli
Sherman,
control?
please, Dr. Sherman.
Because we are connected to this city. This is our homeland.
But
We will
no,
not
but
leave it.
if
This
they're
is our
offered to
city.
stay in the city under Palestinian control, they don't want
before we
it.
take a break, please.
But we are
Gentlemen.
we are calling for rights, and Israel should obey this. Should
Mr.
give us rights. Should guarantee
Mr.
us rights.
Sinjalawi, please, we're taking a break soon. I want Dr. Sherman to wrap it up for us before we take a break.
Just before the Six-Day War broke out, Nasser was on Egyptian television and said we will enter Palestine not with its land covered in sand, but drenched in blood. But the people were digging trenches in Tel Aviv and mass graves. That was the situation. You tried to destroy us, and you failed. Now you're paying the price. That's the historical price. Israel, unfortunately, hasn't collected the full price and has allowed this kind of debate to go on.
Yeah.